They were a perfect example of a modern-day couple.
He was very good with the baby, and she was the main breadwinner in the household.
But their loving family is ripped apart by a baffling mystery.
She disappeared off the face of the earth.
I got that feeling that what is really going on?
As investigators dig into the couple's lives, secrets are dredged up that could have explosive repercussions.
He told me that she had called his phone by mistake and left a message for another dude.
He agreed to give her $200 for an abortion.
The search for the truth will ultimately expose a tale of lust, revenge, and murder.
It was just unbelievable. They called me and told me they were coming. And you don't have to ask them. You already know what they're coming to tell you.
March 2nd, 2010. It's a quiet afternoon in Stafford, Virginia. Around 4 p.m., an animal control officer is dispatched to a wooded area along Interstate 95.
Someone reported they had seen a dog get clipped by a car and hobble off into the woods.
As the officer searches the area, she finds no trace of the injured animal. But she does uncover something much more unsettling.
The animal control officer arrives. She sees what appears to be a person lying on their side. She believes the person is possibly sleeping. But as she investigates a little further, she realizes that's not the case, and it's actually someone deceased.
It appears to be the decomposing body of an African-American female.
The body was not recognizable by sight.
News of the discovery of unidentified female remains quickly spreads to law enforcement agencies up and down the eastern seaboard, eventually making its way to police in Baltimore, Maryland. For 3 long months, investigators there have been searching for a missing 23-year-old named Jerryell Foster. Now they're wondering if their search has come to a heartbreaking end.
I was praying it wasn't my niece. And on the other hand, if it was, I was glad it was her so we can bring her home.
To those who knew her best, Jerryell Foster was a force to be reckoned with.
She was named after her father, Jerry. She was a beautiful girl, sweet, loving, and she was the life of a party.
She was fearless when it came to everything. Even though she was a little person, she had a big heart, she had a big soul.
She was the one in the party that got the party started. She was always the center of attention.
Fiercely loyal above all else, Jerielle valued her large and loving family.
I have a big family, and we're always having something. It's a birthday party, or someone's having a baby shower, whether it's a holiday, Christmas, it doesn't matter. Our family always gets together and enjoys each other's company.
She was always there. Anytime you had something, she would show up.
She shared a special bond with her cousin, Danica Greer.
I don't have any sisters, so she was my sister, basically.
Savvy beyond her years, Jerielle was in a hurry to grow up.
She was ambitious and had certain ideas of what she wanted from life.
She loved to do hair. She went to beautician school.
She would buy clothes before she did laundry. She loved new clothes. She loved to look fresh.
With her style and swagger, 18-year-old Jerielle turned heads wherever she went, especially in the club.
She loved to party when she had free time. She was tall and slim and just built like a model. Everywhere she went, everybody would ask for her number.
But it was during a chance encounter in her neighborhood in 2005 that Jerielle caught the attention of a handsome 25-year-old named Frederick Christian.
Frederick lived in the same block. She met him on her way to beauty school.
She would be going to work and going to school and going places, and he would try to talk to her, and she wouldn't really give him any rap in the beginning.
Hey girl, where you going so fast?
I gotta get to class.
She hadn't had a lot of boyfriends. It wasn't typical of her to date. Eventually, she gave him the time of day.
You gonna be here later?
I'll be here.
All right.
Though she was timid at first, once Jerryell and Frederick started hanging out, she discovered they had a lot in common. Like Jerryell, Frederick was a confident self-starter.
He didn't have a 9-to-5, but he would buy old cars and fix them up and resell them.
He was a hustler. He was very good at flipping cars. Very good at, picking out good cars and doing the minor work that needed to be done and selling them to people.
She was attracted to him because he was about to do something with himself.
One date turned into 2, then 3. By 2009, Jerryell and Frederick had moved in together, brought a beautiful daughter into the world, and were happier than ever.
She was the best mom that you could be.
The baby really made her a whole different person, and it kind of surprised me that she just took that role right away.
I didn't have to teach her anything. She just had the motherly instinct off the bat. She was just so nurturing. She was a warm, kind person, and it really did reflect on her motherly skills. Yeah, she was very proud to be a mother.
Parenting came just as naturally to Frederick.
He was like the perfect daddy.
He was very good with the baby. He could do the baby things just like the mother would.
So when Jerryell was offered a management position at a clothing boutique, she and Frederick agreed it was best for him to stay home with their daughter.
So he was flipping the cars and staying home with the baby.
With Frederick's support, Jerryell flourished in her new job.
She knew everybody's style and what everybody liked. So if something did come in the store and she felt as though it fits you or you would like it, she would definitely call and tell you, oh, we got this new in or we got that new in.
We worked together. She was working first and she actually helped me get the job.
Jerryell and Frederick's dynamic wasn't traditional, but it seemed to be working.
She was committed to being a good mother. She was just so happy.
But in November of 2009, the life Jerryell and Frederick worked so hard to build would suddenly unravel.
Out of nowhere, I had a phone call at work. It was Tony crying and screaming in my ear. And she was like, Jerryell is missing. We don't know where she's at.
And in the wake of her disappearance, a terrifying reality will emerge.
I was really fearing that something had happened to her. That was really bad.
This was the pit of your stomach sickening.
After 4 years of dating, 23-year-old Jerryell Foster and 30-year-old Frederick Christian had built a beautiful life together.
She was happy. They was stable. They had their own place. They was excited.
But on Thanksgiving Day 2009, Jerryell and Frederick's picture-perfect world comes crashing down. The holiday starts like any other, with Jerryell's family gathering at the home of her mother, Tony.
Frederick showed up at Tony's house.
He just had the baby. She at work, like it's nothing, it's no big deal.
After visiting with Jerryell's family for a few hours, Frederick tells Jerryell's mother he needs to go over to his cousin's house for a while.
He left Tony's house around 2 o'clock on the afternoon of Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye, Daddy.
Bye-bye.
He asked me to babysit. So I babysit for a couple hours. It wasn't unusual that she wasn't with him because I thought she was at work, and I thought that she was supposed to come after work.
However, by 8 o'clock that evening, Jerryell still hasn't shown up.
I can't get in touch with Jerryell. She's not answering.
Tony reaches out to Frederick, who's still with his cousin. Frederick tells Tony that he hasn't heard from Jerryell either. At this point, Tony really begins to worry.
There's still no word from her yet?
Girl, no, and you know this ain't like her.
With fears mounting, Tony calls Jerryell's cousin, Danica Greer, hoping she's with her.
Hello?
She was supposed to make 2 stops. She was supposed to go to Tony's house and eat and then come to our family house and eat.
Jerryell planned to kind of hop around to different family functions on that day to spend time not only with her mother, but also with her father's side of the family.
When I got the phone call from Tony and she was letting me know that she had not arrived there, that's when everything started going downhill.
She didn't show up to either function, and that was completely unlike her.
So I was calling her at work because we closed early, like around 5.
As it turns out, Jerryell never showed up to work.
But that's not all. Tony learns that not only had Jerielle not shown up to work for the Thanksgiving sales that morning, she had also been a no-show for work the previous day.
That was strange because, she was a workaholic and she worked every day at all kinds of hours.
This news raises a huge red flag for Jerielle's family. Hoping Frederick might have some answers, the family calls him back. But this time, they get no answer.
All of us was in panic, like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? What is really going on?
I sent her cousin to see if she's home.
Jerryell?
She sent me and another cousin over there first to go to the house and see what was going on.
I'm on the phone with Tony. I said, the window is open. Do you want me to go in? She said, yes.
We made a decision to go in through the window. At this point, I'm having a bad feeling about this. I'm a little nervous, scared.
Jerryell. Frederick.
It was probably about 85 or 90 degrees in that apartment when I went in there.
Now, it was wintertime in Maryland, so the heat would typically be on. But for it to be this hot, for it to blast this type of heat, someone had to have been in the apartment to deliberately set it that high.
But the stifling heat isn't the only unsettling aspect of the apartment.
Frederick!
She says, it's a mess in here. This house is in shambles.
Clothes everywhere. It wasn't like, how your house is cluttered. The house was a mess.
It looked like someone came through and was just pulling on everything, pulling clothes out, and there's clothes everywhere, shoes. That was another clue that made you think, like, yeah, something is definitely wrong.
Jerryell?
I walked through the apartment, I called for them. Didn't hear anything. I said, well, Tony, nobody's here.
I said, well, you leave the door unlocked. Then I'm on my way.
Within minutes, Tony is in her car, headed to Jerielle's apartment. Along the way, she phones the Baltimore County Police Department and asks them to send an officer to meet her there.
I called the police to report my daughter missing, and I went back to the apartment and waited for the police.
Tell me, what's going on? What's going on?
Ma'am, if you'll wait just a minute, the detectives will be right here.
Minutes after detectives arrive to take Tony's official statement, Frederick pulls into the parking lot.
Frederick shows up at the apartment. He is completely surprised and taken aback to see them.
Have you seen Jerryell?
Frederick explains that he's been with his cousin DeJuan ever since leaving Tony's earlier that day, and he's shocked to hear that Jerielle never showed up.
The first thing they want to know is if Frederick is aware that Jerielle had missed work for 2 days in a row. Had he seen her the previous evening? That's when Frederick admits he hadn't seen Jerielle since yesterday.
Detectives ask Frederick why he didn't mention this fact to Jerielle's family earlier. Frederick explains that it isn't unusual for Jerielle to spend the night out from time to time.
He tells police that she occasionally goes out clubbing with friends after she closes the shop. And he just assumed that she had crashed that night with friends and gone back to work early the next day for the Thanksgiving sales.
How come you didn't tell her mom that she didn't show up last night?
I didn't want to worry her. Figured I'd see her on Thanksgiving.
Frederick tells them that this isn't the first time that Jerielle has stayed out all night and crashed somewhere else. He thought he'd eventually see her at Tony's house that afternoon on Thanksgiving.
Frederick told police that the last time he saw Jerielle was the morning of Wednesday, November 25th. On that morning, he says they were both home as maintenance came to change the air filters. During that time, Frederick says that Jerielle left the house, said she was going out for the day and for the night.
He said that that was the last time he saw her and that he would be corroborated by the fact that he had called maintenance.
Now that it's clear Jerielle never made it to work on Wednesday, detectives wonder where she went after leaving her and Frederick's apartment that morning.
This was very serious. My daughter, she had no reason to run or hide or leave.
As police wrap up their interview with Frederick, they notice something about the car that he is driving that makes them suspicious.
It's interesting to note that when Frederick arrived, he had been driving Jerielle's Honda Accord.
This information gets detectives thinking. How had she left for work on Wednesday without her car? Frederick has an explanation for that, too.
He says she often took the bus to work instead of driving, and he just assumes that she did it that day.
Frederick tells police that he can't understand why Jerielle would just leave.
Jerielle was loved. Nobody had a problem with Jerielle because you couldn't. How could you have a problem with Jerielle?
I'm not saying it's because she's my niece. It's just something about her spirit, And I don't know of any enemies. Just about all her friends and her family members adore her.
That's when Frederick shares a startling piece of information with detectives.
Frederick tells police that 6 or 7 months prior to Jerryell's disappearance, he had been kidnapped.
You thought you was gonna get away with this?
And stuffed in the trunk of Jerryell's car.
Why would someone stuff you in the trunk of a car?
Frederick explains that in addition to flipping cars, he occasionally sold drugs on the side. It wasn't something he was proud of, and he worked to keep it separate from his friends and family, including Jerielle.
He suspects the people that jumped him and put him in the back of the trunk were rival drug dealers.
Frederick tells detectives that there was a report filed. However, there was no follow-up. Now he's worried that he's put Jerielle in danger.
Who knows how many enemies Frederick made during his drug dealing career?
Frederick's drug dealer theory is alarming, but its plausibility is corroborated by the evidence on the scene.
The apartment's a mess, and I feel something is horribly wrong.
Is it possible Frederick's rivals had targeted Jerielle as a way to further intimidate him?
Had Jerielle paid the price as an innocent victim? Was her disappearance collateral damage?
Possibility of a kidnapping adds such a sense of urgency to this case. The police want to know who kidnapped her, what they want in return, and if she is still in fact alive.
Nearly 2 days after Jerryell Foster vanished, Baltimore County Police have opened a missing persons investigation. So far, Jerielle's boyfriend, Frederick Christian, has provided one unsettling theory for her disappearance.
Frederick fears that Jerielle might have been kidnapped by a rival drug dealer who had attacked him a few months earlier.
It was entirely possible the same person decided to hit Frederick where it would hurt the most, by harming the mother of his child.
You always had something in your head, the back of your mind. You know, maybe somebody kidnapped her. That's it.
As detectives consider that disturbing possibility, Jerielle's family launches a search of their own.
I went around the neighborhood in the area where we lived at, and basically downtown and uptown, and I put out missing flyers.
We went through the woods, we went dumpsters, we did everything.
I remember thinking that I'm looking for a body, but I'm hoping that I don't find a body.
Meanwhile, investigators reach out to their informants working in the city's illegal drug trade to see if they have heard about any recent kidnappings. As they wait for a response, detectives dig deeper into another bit of information Frederick had provided in his statement to police.
Frederick did mention that Jerielle liked to go out and party with friends.
Since several of Jerielle's close friends were also co-workers, police decided to speak to them to see if they can shed some light on what happened to her. Maybe she had a secret that Frederick didn't know about.
2 of Jerielle's co-workers agree to come in for questioning. They confirm that Jerielle liked to work hard and play hard.
She liked going out to clubs, having fun with friends.
We went to clubs together. When we would go out, you know, as girls, she would liven up more.
When she wanted to really release, she got up and danced. You know, she loved to dance.
Jerielle's co-workers also tell police that there was one of her colleagues she was particularly fond of dancing with. They say his name is Teron Gibson, and the gossip around the store was that Teron and Jerielle had started sleeping with each other. Suspicious that Teron may have something to do with Jerielle's disappearance, police pay him a visit that afternoon.
How can I help you guys?
When was the last time you saw Jerryell Foster?
3 nights ago. We closed the store together.
November 24th, she closed the store around 8:19 p.m. with her coworker, Teron Gibson. And after they shut things down, the 2 walked nearby to the ATM to deposit all the funds that they'd made from that day. Then they went to the local bus station at Rogers Avenue. And that's the last time he saw Jerielle.
Detectives know they can confirm or disprove Teron's story by checking the security footage at the ATM and the bus station. But that will take time.
Time is not a luxury the police have with Jerielle missing, so they cut right to the chase.
They asked Teron point blank if he and Jerielle had been sleeping together.
Listen, man, we're just really close.
More than close, according to your coworkers.
He was a little hesitant to answer the question at first. And then it turns out he did admit he had a sexual relationship with Jerielle.
Teron tells detectives that for several months, he and Jerielle had been meeting up once a week to hook up. But that's not all.
Teron says that Jerielle also told him in October that she was pregnant and that he could have been the father of her baby.
I asked her to get an abortion. I don't know if she did it or not.
Teron had agreed to give her $200 for an abortion.
According to Teron, Frederick didn't even know about the pregnancy. He explains that's why she was considering having an abortion, so she wouldn't have to tell him. He also doesn't think Frederick had any idea about his romance with Jerryell.
It's a shocking revelation and leads police to wonder, could Jerryell have decided to not get an abortion? And if so, could Teron have been angry enough to take matters into his own hands?
Teron denies having anything to do with Jerielle's disappearance, and he says that he spent the last 2 days at home before returning to work on Friday.
That's when Teron says something that adds another layer to this mystery. Apparently, there's someone else who might be responsible for Jerryell's disappearance.
But listen, I'm not the only one Jerielle was sleeping with.
So she had another boyfriend?
I heard she met someone new.
Teron claims he doesn't know the guy's name, but he believes Jerryelle met him at the same club where they used to hang out.
Regardless of this story, police can't help but wonder if Teron is telling the truth or if he's trying to deflect suspicion from himself.
But before police can answer that question, a pair of new witnesses will step forward, and the pieces of the puzzle they reveal will form a startling picture.
She had called his phone by mistake and left a message for another dude.
Police in Baltimore have been on a desperate search for 23-year-old Jerryell Foster since her mother first reported her missing on Thanksgiving Day, 2009.
I could not sleep, I could not eat. I went searching for her every night.
As for police, they have been exploring multiple leads, including the possibility that Jerielle might have been kidnapped by a drug dealer looking for revenge against her boyfriend, Frederick Christian.
Another theory police are exploring is the possibility that Jerielle's disappearance is tied to an affair that she was having.
Desperate for answers, detectives sat down with Jerryell's co-worker and alleged lover, Teron Gibson, for a formal interview.
Teron admitted to getting in Jerryell's Honda Accord on the night of November 24th, and he was the last co-worker to have seen her.
In order to clear his name, Teron agrees to let Baltimore County Police triangulate his cell phone.
And his story does indeed match up. Teron's phone never pinged off of any towers that were close to Jerryell's apartment.
With Teron officially cleared as a suspect, police focused their attention on Jerryell's other alleged lover.
Teron told police that Jerielle may have been hooking up with a man she met at a club, but police have no idea who this guy is.
But before police can learn more about this individual, they receive an unexpected visit from one of Jerielle and Frederick's neighbors.
A man named Ronald Tipton, who was a neighbor of Frederick and Jerryell's, shows up at the police department and reports that he saw Frederick doing something really strange on Thanksgiving Day.
I was cooking. I had to go back to the store. And when I came out, him and some guy were carrying out a love seat.
He remembers distinctly seeing Frederick Christian and another gentleman moving a love seat out of the apartment. Now, with it being Thanksgiving Day, it seems a little odd that most people are settled, enjoying time with family, enjoying a full meal.
Frederick left Jerielle's mother's house for several hours that day because he claimed he needed to take care of something. But he didn't mention a love seat, so was he trying to hide something?
He moved the sofa out of the apartment. It's only a year old. Why would he throw that away? And he had to move this sofa on Thanksgiving Day. Nobody moves on Thanksgiving. Right there tells you that's a clue that you have to look into that.
To those who knew him best, the theory doesn't seem likely.
I didn't think it was nothing like foul play or anything, but Fred would have hurt my niece or did anything to harm her. No, I didn't think anything like that.
Even the couple's neighbor, Ronald Tipton, has a hard time imagining Frederick laying a hand on Jerielle, mostly because she was the mother of Frederick's precious baby daughter.
So that was the last I seen him, man. But man, to be honest with you, that dude, man, he cared about his baby. He was nice as he could be.
In his initial conversation with police, Frederick claimed that on Thanksgiving Day, he had gone to see his cousin Dewan after leaving Jerielle's mother's house. So with the help of Jerielle's family, detectives tracked down Dewan Madison to see if he had in fact seen Frederick that day.
He called me, yeah, about probably about 8 o'clock. Said he wanted to move a couch or something. Okay. And I was like, what are you moving a couch for? And he told me the baby spilled milk on it.
Everybody wanted to know, why did he move the love seat out the apartment? And his answer was, the baby spilled on the couch. Well, who does that? You know, you either try to get it up or you buy something to rub it out. You don't get rid of it.
DeJuan says he thought the whole situation was rather odd, but admits that wasn't the only decision Frederick made that day that gave him pause.
He takes the couch all the way to another complex, not 30 feet away, but half a mile away.
Why did it have to go to a dumpster, not right outside his front door? Because when you want to get rid of a piece of furniture, all you do is put it right out front.
That's the strange thing that I have in my head too, but we talking about Fred. He's not the brightest person in the world.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he's listed in my phone as dummy.
Police wanted to examine that couch for evidence, but it was too late because the apartment complex where DeJuan stated that they had dropped the couch off had already had his trash picked up.
Detectives asked DeJuan if he thinks his cousin was capable of hurting Jerielle. DeJuan doesn't think so, because if he did, DeJuan says he'd be the first one to know about it.
I'm the one that would normally go and rescue him. Like, Fred just got kidnapped not too long ago and stuffed in the back of the trunk. And I had to go rescue him.
DeJuan's statement dovetails with the one Frederick told police the first day of their investigation. But then, DeJuan brings up something Frederick had failed to disclose to detectives. A conversation the cousins had not long after Jerielle went missing.
I said, man, don't worry about it, she'll call. I said, right now, y'all arguing or whatever, don't keep worrying yourself, she's gonna call.
Why did you say they were arguing? Did he give you an indication that they've been beefing?
It was probably a couple of days before Thanksgiving.
Frederick told DeJuan that Jerielle had gone out all night with her friends again earlier that week. Frederick was tired of waiting up for her, so he went to sleep. And when he woke up later that night, he realized he had a strange voicemail from Jerielle.
Her phone accidentally called Frederick, and he could hear later on the voice message, which lasted about 5 minutes.
He told me that she had called his phone by mistake and left a message for another dude that they were supposed to be getting together. He said that she didn't come home until like 5 o'clock in the morning.
She kind of butt dialed him, and she was talking to somebody that she might have been dancing with, and he was angry.
He saved it to his ass machine, and they got in an argument about that.
Could a jealous Frederick have taken his anger out on Jerielle? Detectives know they need to learn more about the true nature of Jerielle and Frederick's relationship to answer this question.
To do that, they turned to Jerielle's cousin and confidant, Danica Greer.
But what police don't know is that Danica is sitting on her own explosive secret.
She called me, and she was like, I need to talk to you. I could tell in her voice something was wrong.
A secret that, once exposed, will alter the course of the entire investigation and rock Jerielle's loved ones to their core.
She was like, girl, you ain't gonna believe this. You're not gonna believe this.
On the surface, Jerryell Foster and Frederick Christian had an ideal relationship.
She was just so happy.
But Jerielle's mysterious disappearance on Thanksgiving Day of 2009 has exposed a dark underbelly to the couple's once seemingly perfect lives.
Frederick was selling drugs on the side, and Jerielle had a fling with someone at work. She was also flirting with different guys at the club.
But just how bad had things really gotten between Jerielle and Frederick? To find out, detectives ask her cousin Danica Greer about the man Jerielle had supposedly met at the club a few days before she vanished.
Do you know anything about what happened while she was out clubbing?
Yeah, she went with the guy that she was talking to at the time.
She says this man Jerielle was friendly with went by the name of Rico, but she doesn't know his last name.
Then I guess they went home.
But who is this mysterious Rico? And where can police find him?
This raises a whole new scenario. It makes detectives wonder if Jerryell had ran off with this man named Rico.
Danica Greer throws cold water on that theory.
She would never just get up and leave her child. That was her child. She loved the child. Everything she did was for her child.
She would never up and move. She wouldn't leave that baby. Now, if her and the baby was missing, maybe. But she would not leave her daughter behind.
If Jerryell didn't run off with Rico, is it possible that he did something bad to her? Danica tells police that her cousin didn't have any conflict with him, so she doesn't think that's possible.
With no other information about Rico, detectives shift gears and ask Danica about Frederick. They're specifically interested in his reaction to Jerryell's accidental voicemail message.
She told me the whole story. She said she was talking about someone that she had met, and he overheard the conversation. He was upset about what he heard.
She was like, girl, you ain't gonna believe this. You're not gonna believe this. And I was like, what? What's going on?
When she went home that night, he was waiting for her behind the door, and he grabbed her and choked her.
He forced her to listen to the voicemail message where, you know, she had been out with friends, and he demanded to know what was going on.
Danica's version of events is much more violent than the one police heard from Frederick's cousin, DeJuan Madison.
Okay. Now, you saw the injury?
Mm-hmm. Her whole face was bruised, and she had a blood clot in her eye. Like, because I guess the pressure of his arm on her face, one side of her face was extremely swollen, the same side that her eye was bloodshot.
According to Danica, when Frederick choked Jerryell, it was the last straw.
Jerielle had told her cousin Danica that she was ready to break things off with Frederick.
She told me that she was trying to break up with Fred. He definitely was sensing that, and it was making him act, you know, irrational.
Is it possible that Jerryell told Frederick she was leaving him, and Frederick decided he'd rather see Jerryell dead than with another man? Pursuing that theory, detectives asked Danica if she'd noticed anything suspicious inside the couple's apartment when she searched it on Thanksgiving.
They're specifically curious if she noticed any other furniture or other items missing from the apartment, like the love seat Frederick had already removed.
I didn't pay attention to that because I'm thinking other things, you know what I'm saying? My mind is looking for Jerielle.
Right.
But now that I think about it, yeah, the love seat is gone. And the carpet underneath the table was no longer there.
The carpet, the rug that was normally underneath the dining room table was no longer there.
Armed with this new information, detectives execute a search warrant of Frederick and Jerryell's apartment.
Let's start over here.
Just as Danica said, there is no rug under the dining table. However, there is a rug in the living room that appears as if it doesn't belong.
An area rug that used to be in the dining room has now been placed in the living room. They confirmed this because the indentations in the rug clearly show that the dining room table had been sitting on top of this. After police removed the area rug, they noticed that the carpet reeks of bleach, so much so that the carpet itself is discolored because of it.
In fact, there was so much bleach used that the concrete underneath the padding was wet. It's obvious that Frederick put a lot of effort into both concealing and cleaning this area.
But the bleached carpet isn't the only evidence police uncover at the couple's apartment.
Hey, detective. Someone's here to speak with you.
They come across the person that Frederick claimed could corroborate his story, that Jerryell was at the apartment the morning of the 25th. The maintenance man he'd called to work on the apartment's HVAC unit.
Yeah, my boss said you want to talk to me about something?
Maintenance was asked whether or not they did so and saw the victim. It turned out that they did change air filters, but they let themselves in the apartment.
Jerryelle? No, I didn't see Jerryelle Jack in the door.
They said no one was home. This totally contradicts Frederick's stories.
With all the holes in Frederick's story and evidence of efforts to remove blood from the dining area, detectives decide to haul Frederick Christian in for a second round of questioning. When confronted with Danica Greer's statement, Frederick admits to arguing with Jerryelle after learning she was out dancing with other men, and that the altercation did get physical.
He was waiting behind the door for her, and when she entered, he grabbed her from behind and wrapping his arm around her neck, choking her, but he was adamant about the fact that he had never struck the victim before.
Frederick also adamantly denies killing Jerryelle.
I've never done nothing to her.
Fred, not asking.
You basically saying something wrong with her. That's basically what you're saying.
Detectives can sense that Frederick is hiding something.
These cops are pros, and they could look at Frederick and tell that he's got a big secret that's tearing him up inside.
Police are trying to get Frederick to open up because clearly, if anyone knows what happened to Jerielle, they believe he's got some insight.
In situations like what he and I deal with, in most cases, it wasn't really ever meant to happen anyway. You took damn good care of a young girl, 2-year-old, while the baby's mother was out at work, and then going out clubbing afterwards, coming home, messing with other men, and you trying to do right by her, and get into a physical altercation that goes bad.
They try to act like his friend and tell him, listen, if you were mad at her, we completely understand. Who wouldn't be upset if their girlfriend was two-timing them?
Unfortunately for detectives, Frederick doesn't take the bait.
I don't have nothing else to say. I just know that I do nothing.
With Frederick no longer willing to cooperate, detectives have no choice but to release him. A few hours later, the crime lab contacts them with more bad news.
The bleach was poured directly onto the floor and saturated the carpet. Any DNA evidence that was left. It was so corrupted by the bleach that they couldn't do a proper DNA test on it. But they were able to determine that it was in fact blood.
But without a body or any other clues pointing to Jerielle's whereabouts, investigators are no closer to cracking the case.
We're still looking for her. And this is to 1 month, then 2 months, then 3 months. Come on, you're going nuts.
But just when it seems all hope is lost, a gruesome discovery in another state blows the case wide open.
They called me and told me they were coming, and you don't have to ask them anything. You already know what they're coming to tell you.
March 2010. It's been more than 3 months since Jerryell Foster went missing, and any hope of finding her is fading fast.
The next time I saw her daughter asked me, like, where's my mommy? You see my mommy? Like, it affects, like, I don't think people understand. Every day they have to go through those, that emotion. It's just a terrible, terrible thing to put anybody through.
Unfortunately, Jerielle's live-in boyfriend and the case's prime suspect, Frederick Christian, is refusing to help detectives bring the missing mother home.
Frederick said people are starting to blame him on what happened, even though Jerielle has not been found, nor have any charges been filed. Frederick told police that he would take his chances on the street and he would no longer cooperate with them.
Finally, on March 2nd, 2010, nearly 4 months after Jerielle's disappearance, Baltimore County Police catch the break they've been looking for.
A body is found off of I-95 in Stafford, Virginia, by an animal control officer who was out in the area looking for an injured dog. It appears to be the decomposing body of an African-American female. When they start to check other records within the DMV area, they begin to think that perhaps this is Jerielle's body.
So at the time, the body had been on the side of the road for months and had decomposed considerably and was not recognizable by sight. She was identified by her dental records, and then further by our office and the police department by the matching description of her clothing and so forth.
The medical examiner does further tests, and they do positively identify the body as that of Jerryell Foster.
I got a call March the 2nd, 2010. They called me and told me they were coming. They had worn a piece of her jewelry and asked me, do I recognize that? And I said I did, and that was hers. It was good to hear that they found her, but at the same time, I was heartbroken. I was very heartbroken.
It was a tragic situation. We were still blessed that we was able to bring my niece home, have a proper funeral and burial for her.
The Stafford County medical examiner performs an autopsy before sending Jerielle's remains back to Baltimore. The results clear up one question for investigators.
There's no evidence of Jerielle being pregnant at the time of her death.
As for the cause of Jerielle's death, the coroner is able to determine that Jerielle did not die of natural causes.
It was determined by the autopsy that the victim was killed with a .32 caliber revolver.
She was shot twice. in the neck and in the stomach.
The shot to the neck did, according to the autopsy report, strike her jugular vein, which would in turn cause a lot of bleeding.
Though there is no physical evidence found on Jerielle's body tying her boyfriend, Frederick Christian, to the crime, detectives still believe he's responsible.
The suspicious circumstantial evidence that they found in the couple's apartment gives police enough evidence to arrest Frederick and charge him with Jerryell's murder.
Police apprehended him at the home of one of his friends on March 15, 2010.
The next morning, which was a Monday morning, I hear on the news, I hear the helicopters from my house, and they say that they just arrested Frederick. Oh my God, I was so happy. I was so happy.
In April 2011, Frederick Christian's murder trial gets underway in a Baltimore County courtroom. In their opening statement, prosecutors lay out their theory of what happened inside the couple's home in the wee hours of November 24, 2009.
It was the state's theory in the case that when the victim arrived home, the defendant was waiting for her.
He was tired of her going out. He was tired of her partying.
She came home late again on Tuesday and Frederick lost it.
I do not have time for this. I just got off work.
And where you think you going? You think it's a game, don't you?
He shot her twice in the neck, which severed a jugular vein. He then drove to Stafford County, Virginia, dropping her body on the side of the road.
An injury to the jugular vein releases such an enormous amount of blood that would help explain why Frederick used an excessive amount of bleach to try to soak up the blood stains of the love seat, but why he ultimately likely removed it from the property altogether.
Prosecutors believe Frederick then returned to the apartment, where he used bleach and moved rugs to cover up the blood in the home and on the love seat, and ultimately enlisted his cousin to help him remove the love seat from his apartment altogether. Prosecutors also theorize Frederick then cranked the heat in an attempt to further cover his tracks.
He was trying to dry the carpet that he cleaned with chemicals and things like that. And he was trying to, do the best job he could of disposing of the crime scene.
The evidence is stacked against Frederick, which is why it's shocking to everyone when he takes the stand in his own defense.
When a defendant takes the stand, you sort of expect to see their best side in hopes of creating a character for the jury to sort of find some sympathy or empathize with. This defendant did the opposite. The defendant presented himself on the stand in such a way that it made it more believable that he would have committed the crime.
He berated his attorney for not asking the right questions. And this was a bad move and a bad look with the jurors, because if they saw him losing his cool with his attorney, they could only imagine how he probably lost his temper many times with Jerielle.
With the state's case clearly laid out, it doesn't take long for the jury to return with their verdict.
Defendant was found guilty of first-degree murder of the victim.
He was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
I was so relieved. The sun came back out. I was able to smile again.
It bothered me that he never admitted that he did it, which was all the evidence was there. He would never say sorry. He never showed no remorse.
While Jerielle's family may never recover from what they lost, they hope that her story will serve as a cautionary tale to others who find themselves in an abusive situation.
There's no doubt in my mind that Mr. Christian killed Jerielle out of a domestic violence situation. He was not happy with the way she acted, and he felt like he could control her. And, you wish that somebody had helped them prior to this.
If you see something, say something. No matter what. If you lose a friend, that's fine, but at least your friend will still be there. It's not worth losing a life. No, it's never worth it.
Time really does heal. It really does heal. I'm able to function and be normal again. And I have a child, and she is little Jerielle. They look exactly alike. So I'm so happy to have her in my life. I'm looking at her face through her. So that's the joy I have now.